For decades, they called him the most dangerous man in the world, but nobody ever asked what the world did to him first. Most X-Men fans think they know Magneto. They don't, because the most important part of his story was never shown in the movies. It wasn't in the animated series. And when you discover what happened to his family, you'll understand why this became one of the darkest origins in comic book history. Before he was Magneto, he was just a boy named Max Eisenhardt. In 1935, he was a 9-year-old boy growing up in Germany. His family were jewelers, and Max had the hands for it. He could find scraps of metal where no one else saw any, and bend them into something delicate. He had a crush on a girl named Magda, a Romani girl whose mother worked on the grounds of his school. He made her a necklace from bent wire, the way a jeweler's son makes things, with care and intention. At a school sports day, Max stepped up to the javelin line. A Jewish boy in a school that had made very clear he did not belong there. He threw, and the javelin sailed past anything his classmates managed. He won the gold medal. His teacher, Herr Kalb, warned him quietly to be careful. The nail that sticks up gets hammered down. That same day, Max carried the necklace to a rally in the town square to give it to Magda. The rally turned out to be the public announcement of the Nuremberg race laws, the edicts that stripped Jews of their citizenship and forbade marriage and relations between Jews and Germans. And to demonstrate the new order, the regime had dragged out Max's Uncle Eric, beaten bloody, a sign hung around his neck reading, "I have wronged a German woman." Max shoved through the cheering crowd to reach him. The law was not a rumor anymore. It had a face, and that face was his uncle's. That evening, the family argued about what to do. Eric said it was time to leave Germany. Jakob, a decorated veteran of the First World War, a man with medals and a record, still believed his service would protect them. He looked at his son's gold medal and said they couldn't take that away. The next morning, the headmaster announced that the javelin Max had used was not regulation. He ordered the boy to throw again with a heavier one or surrender the medal. Max and Herr Kalb both knew the new javelin was far too heavy and that there was nothing they could do about it. Max threw anyway. He won again. It didn't matter. The headmaster expelled him for cheating. As Max left the school, he watched Herr Kalb dragged off by regime officers, and then his own classmates surrounded him and beat him down with their gold medals, because that was what it meant to be Jewish in Germany in 1935. You could outperform everyone in the room. It would still not count. In 1936, during the Berlin Olympic Games, Jakob took Max to the capital. He was going to see Major Jürgen Scharf, the commanding officer whose life he had saved in the war, now a man in the government. On the train, Jakob showed his son an old army photograph of the two of them, smiling, raising their glasses. He told Max that Scharf was a good and honest man, and that surely, between two men who had served together, his old job could be restored. He waited the entire day. He never got the meeting. As they stood on the steps of the government building, soldiers set upon Jakob for making trouble, beating him for resisting arrest, while Max stood and watched, unable to move. Scharf intervened only enough to keep them from killing his old friend. They were, even now, he said. The regime could have killed Jakob, and they hadn't. Jakob picked himself up. He looked again at the medal he had earned serving Germany, still unable to believe what his country had become. November 1938. Glass in the streets, synagogues burning, neighbors dragged from their homes in the dark. It was Max who insisted the family flee their house that night. They hid and watched, helpless, as everything around them came apart. They finally left Germany for Poland. They arrived on the first day of the German invasion of Poland. By 1940, they were in the Warsaw Ghetto, a wall around 10 feet high, topped with barbed wire, enclosing barely more than a square mile of city and holding close to 500,000 people. The official food ration for Jewish residents was a fraction of what a person needs to survive, on the order of 184 calories per day. Thousands starved to death every month. In the summer of 1942, the deportation trains began leaving Warsaw. The regime spread the story that those who boarded were being resettled somewhere with work, food, and shelter, a fresh start. Word reached the ghetto that it was a lie. The trains went to Treblinka, and Treblinka was not a labor camp. It was a place built for killing, and that is not a metaphor. Rather than board, the Eisenhardts fled the ghetto. Eric stayed behind to fight. Max thought about going with him, then chose to stay with his his parents and his sister, Ruth. A woman promised to lead them to safety. She betrayed them to the regime. They were lined up before a firing squad at the edge of an open pit. At the last possible moment, Jakob Eisenhardt threw himself in front of the bullet, meant for his son. Max fell into the pit among the bodies of his mother, his father, and his sister Ruth. He lay still until it was safe to move, and when he finally climbed out, there was nothing left. He was captured within days and loaded onto a freight train. The destination was Auschwitz. He was 16 years old. At the gates, a voice called out his name. Herr Kalb, his old teacher, now in a prisoner's striped uniform. He spoke fast and low. "Say you can work. Say you're strong. Say you're older than you are." Max said it. A boy near him in line would not. He told the truth about how young he was. He was led away, and a few minutes later, Max heard the shots. He clenched his eyes shut. Max was shaved, tattooed with a number on his forearm. Kalb tried to get him placed in a safer detail, but a twist of fate landed Max in the Sonderkommando, the prisoners forced to manage the dead. He stood at the doors of the chambers. He pulled bodies from the chambers and carried them to the ovens. He did this nearly every day for almost 2 years. And then, one day, Herr Kalb's body passed him on the way to the furnaces. Whatever hope Max had left died with his teacher. That night, Max wrote a letter to the future and buried it in the ground for someone to find. He began it the only way he could. "My name is Max Eisenhardt," and set down, plainly, that he had spent nearly 2 years as a Sonderkommando at Auschwitz, watching thousands of men, women, and children walk to their deaths. He begged whoever found it to repeat his story to everyone who would listen, and to everyone who would not, so that this could never happen again. The next morning, he walked toward the fence, ready to die. Through the wire, he saw a glint of metal. A girl on the other side, holding something in her hands. His necklace, the one he had bent from wire years before and given to a girl in a town square who had seemed like the most important thing in the world. It was Magda, and she was alive. She became the only reason he kept moving. He bribed the guards with gold pried from the teeth of the dead. He had Magda transferred to safer work in the infirmary under a nurse named Schulman, who could get her extra rations and medicine. When he learned the Roma camp was about to be liquidated, he spent everything he had accumulated to get her onto a transport out before it happened. On the night of August 2nd, 1944, the guards murdered the last Roma in the camp, 2,897 men, women, and children, in the chambers. The night is remembered as Zigeunernacht, the night of the Roma. Magda was already gone, but the transport did not save her. Half of the people sent out with her died in Buchenwald, and the survivors, Magda among them, were shipped back to Auschwitz for final processing. Months earlier, Max had told her what to do if everything went wrong. Hide in the corpse pile. He had bribed the body detail to bring her to him. On October 7th, 1944, the day the Sonderkommando revolt was set to begin, a load of bodies arrived at Max's unit from the returned prisoners. He searched the pile, and Magda opened her eyes. She had done exactly what he told her. He pulled her out. When Crematorium 4 was blown apart and the gates broke open in the chaos, Max took Magda by the hand and they ran out into the snow. They did not look back. Here is what the X-Men animated series never told you. Charles Xavier was brilliant, compassionate, a man who built an entire philosophy around the belief that peaceful coexistence between humans and mutants was possible. He grew up protected. He had never lain still in a mass grave waiting to see if the soldiers were gone. Magneto had that same dream once, before the medal that did not count, before Berlin, before Warsaw, before the number on his forearm. He was the boy who bent wire into necklaces, who gave one to a girl in a town square, and who believed, the way children believe things, that the world had a place for him. If this video made you see a character you thought you already knew in a completely different light, share it with someone who grew up watching the X-Men. And if you want to know the dark origin of another classic character that television kept hidden from you, subscribe to the channel. Because the next video is about a character who seemed like the villain from the very first frame, but whose reasons were buried somewhere the cartoon never dared to look. See you then.